A Mediterranean melting pot, Corsica has long set itself apart from mainland France with a language, culture and identity all of its own. Where better to start than Ajaccio with the quintessential sound of the island. A polyphonic chorus, voices soaring and dipping. Here in Corsica, these traditional songs, sung a cappella, tell the story of the land and its people. The group Spartimou is bringing that lyrical practice into the 21st century. Hello, Frédéric.
Hello, Olivia.
This Corsican tradition of polyphonic singing, can you tell us where that comes from?
Corsica's polyphonic tradition is historic. It's recognized internationally. It's an archaic practice, part of an oral tradition where songs are passed on from one generation to the next. In the past, it was sung by shepherds. That style is called the canto in paesiella, and that's the nomenclature they used when it was recognized by UNESCO as part of our intangible cultural heritage.
The style of this music, as well as the subjects it talks about, what does it tell us about Corsican society?
These are songs which revisit our island's history and which tell the story of its people. They can express happy moments, sad times. They simply describe life as we live it here in Corsica.
There's one song in your repertoire that's very important for Corsican identity. Can you tell us a bit more about that one?
This is the most symbolic song for us. It's an anthem that unites Corsican people. It's called Dio via salvi regina. This song is a tribute to the Virgin Mary and it follows Corsicans from the cradle to the grave. For more than 300 years, it's been considered Corsica's national anthem.
Historically, Corsica's been fought over and conquered by neighbouring Italy and mainland France, while the people of this mountainous island have long expressed their thirst for freedom. If there's one passion Corsicans share with their mainland cousins, it's food. The island's known for its charcuterie, goat's cheese and wine, of course. And chefs are revisiting those traditional flavours with an eye on local produce, picked and prepared as the season dictates. We're off to meet Jean-Antoine Ottavi, who's bringing Corsican cuisine to a stunning location.
Hi there. So where have you brought me?
This is a Bianco Gentile.
Corsican vintage, then?
Yes, this is a bottle from 2019. It's a very fresh vintage. This grape variety has a really nice depth to it. It has a long finish, and that acidity will go very well with the cuttlefish risotto and the crab pasta.
Great. Let's give it a taste.
There's a salty mineral aftertaste, which is really Moorish.
Hello, I'm Jean-Antoine. Nice to meet you. Here's the table. It's all set up. With a sea view, not a cloud in the sky for the moment.
Jean-Antoine, bonjour.
Hi.
So this project of bringing people to eat outside, bringing the restaurant to the beach, how did it start?
Well, a few years back, I started doing this with my friends. Then we got into it and gradually upped the standards. Eventually, one day a friend of mine, a great winemaker from Bourgogne, Cécile Valette, said to me, Jean-Antoine, you have to put a picnic together for us. It's for a special occasion. It all came from that, really.
And in France, the notion of terroir, the land, the soil where the products grow, is very important. How would you describe the character of the Corsican terroir?
There's an unwritten rule that I like to abide by, which is working with seasonal products. And it comes quite naturally. You know what's around at the moment. The brocu cheese, the crab, cuttlefish, pork as well.
So if there was one product, one ingredient, one dish that really sums up Corsican gastronomy, what would it be?
It would be the brocu cheese. It's sort of a cousin of ricotta. It can be used as a sweet and savory ingredient. And it's really connected to the land. It reflects what the goats have been eating. It comes from the soil, the grass and the plants from these hills. All of that is brought together in one product.
And it's right here as well.
That's right. You have a version of it here, a soft cheese that a local shepherd makes. These are some fritters I've made. Here, have a taste.
Delicious.
The pièce de résistance, a cuttlefish risotto, for this couple who agreed to be surprised by Jean-Antoine's tasting menu for a very special meal.
Bon appétit, sweetheart.
Oh, I'm glad. That's a dish that you like.
I really like it. It's fantastic.
Pleasure and freedom. They're the two words that sum up this experience for me.
With its crystal clear waters and dramatic mountain backdrop, Corsica is known as the Isle of Beauty in French, making it a photogenic choice for many a film shoot. But cinema about the island itself has taken a while to emerge. Now a new generation of filmmakers is putting their home in the spotlight.
Ange Basterga knows this village like the back of his hand. The director spent childhood holidays here in his ancestral home of Basilicata. After a stint in Paris, then as an actor in the series Mafiosa, he shot to fame as co-director of the series Dealer. Now he lives in Corsica, and although the island has no major film studio, that's not curbed his ambitions.
After Paris and Marseille, do you have any projects that are going to bring you to Corsica for films or series in the future?
I'm very inspired by our island. I'm going to shoot my next feature film in Ajaccio. I also have plans for a series set in Corsica. I've got another project coming up which is called The Island of the Righteous Among Nations. That's about Corsica during the Second World War, about the Corsican resistance. That is to say, our grandparents who saved all these Jewish families during the war. We're very proud of them. I'd like to pay tribute to our grandparents who chose the path of resistance during those difficult times.
Locations like the Sanguinaire Islands just outside of Ajaccio are what make Corsica a popular tourist destination. But when winter sets in, the population thins out and the locals are left to their own devices. Filmmaker Frédéric Ferrucci is fascinated by this social shift. His film, Am I My Brother's Keeper, is a 21st century Western that explores the power struggle between those two worlds and the tragic consequences that can transpire.
J'ai pas marre de ce bar de merde. Canimique, les gars, rien. On plaisante. Oh, les trucs que Joseph a emmerdé ce soir. Et tout, des chinos.
There's this endemic violence in Corsica which is difficult to explain, and I think that the great majority of people here are appalled by it. I think that a lot of filmmakers are troubled by this state of affairs, and that's why it features in a lot of films.
Issues that have left their mark on Corsican cinema, director Thierry de Peretti was applauded for his unsettling depiction of racism and brutality in Apache. His next film, A Violent Life, explored the rise of nationalism in the 1990s. As for Lavigny Beaufy, the lives of her female relatives served as inspiration for her first feature-length film. a moving drama that speaks of a world devoid of men and the dangers of a patriarchal, insular society.
Attends, on n'a pas fini.
Mais toi, tu crois que tu sens bon, toi?
Bien sûr.
Mais toi, tu pues, l'homme dégueulasse, là, tu pues.
Alors?
T'as rien à faire là, vas-y, va-t'en.
Ça la chèvre, c'est mieux de sentir la chèvre.
Mais ça vous pose pas de problème d'emmerder les filles comme ça, mais vous êtes qui? Vous avez été élevés comment?
In Corsica, we live in a world where we're often ostracized. A lot of that is down to patriarchy. As well as simple sexism, we really need to make an effort to talk about it, to explain why this does men a disservice, as well as being very bad for women. Starting in childhood, it creates this division between us, a war between the sexes but also between men. And so many people suffer, so many of them die, even because of this patriarchy.
A singular society which is emerging as the main character for this generation of filmmakers, keen to move away from the clichés and to reveal some of the darker truths about life here, painting a more nuanced, authentic picture of the island. Be it on screen or in song, the Corsican language is a powerful expression of local heritage. Yet with ever fewer native speakers, UNESCO has declared it an endangered idiom. Today, bilingualism's being promoted through education and through the arts. Carmen Belgodère and Laurence Berbiot founded a school for traditional music where classes take place in French and in the local language, or as it's known here, in Corsu.
Vabbè, ci accordiamo. Allez, ci accordiamo. Manuel, c'est tu qui principi o tempo. Donc, d'abord o coso, hein?
As many Corsicans say, if you want to learn Corsican, you have to learn to sing.
Laurence, you founded the school a while ago and it's bilingual. Can you tell us why that was so important and necessary?
I've always thought that a large part of our cultural identity is transmitted through the arts. Our collective memory and shared experiences are passed on via an oral tradition through music. Carmen and I decided it was important to pass on this legacy.
Buongiorno, mi chiamo Manuel Garcia, vivo in Ajaccio, trabalho em Colégio Letizia Bonaparte, impara il violino e la percussione.
The Corsican language isn't spoken enough today. We don't speak it enough here in the city. In the future, Corsicans should speak it all the time.
And Corsican culture was perhaps a little less visible at the beginning of the 20th century, and then there was perhaps more interest in it recently. Can you explain what happened there?
Well, there was a moment of soul-searching during the rise of quote-unquote nationalism in the 1970s, and certain issues started to emerge that couldn't be ignored. All of a sudden, people started to realize that a cultural void was setting in. What I mean is that when collective memory disappears, nothing replaces it. And you realize that, okay, I don't speak Corsican anymore, so what am I going to pass on to my children? We were losing the village fairs, the traditional parties we call avadia, where the older people play music and sing, and younger generations are there joining in, a bit like what's happening here, and that's how they learn from their elders.
And here in Corsica, politics and culture, it's difficult to separate them, isn't it?
It's true that this population has always had to deal with a certain level of oppression, but they managed to pass on their shared history and culture. And after the Second World War, after regional communities were forced to abandon their mother tongues, in a way there was this realization that I mentioned before. And there was a group of singers named Canta o Populo Corse, who went from village to village, passing on this cultural and political message. And I hope this movement will continue, and that Corsica will open up to the world while also reclaiming its heritage.
Open to the world, open to other styles of music, and to the younger generations who breathe new life into these sounds, like local producer and musician Arnaud Castelli.
Arnaud brings his ideas to the table. He brings rock, electro, and I bring my traditional approach. I want to open things up. We're a Mediterranean people, and here in the region there are many different cultures. What's good is to get to know all of them, build bridges, make the most of that exchange. That's the most interesting thing, being open to our neighbours in the Mediterranean.
Ciò che è divano